So, ladies and gentlemen, today we'll be having an informal chat with an expert network platform, an aggregator called ENC. We're going to be doing this virtually as the team is across the world. The team should be joining shortly. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a very informal session, as you can see from the background. Just a quick chat on what they do, how they do it, why they're important, and so forth and so on. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going, man?
All good, all good. How are you?
I'm good, pretty good. Hold on, let me
Is Alex joining, or
work.
it's just going to be me and you?
Uh, uh, that is a good question. I think Alex was, so I don't know if he got an invite or anything. I couldn't add him to it because I think it didn't give me permissions.
Oh, okay. Then I messed it up. I haven't sent it to him, but I can forward it right now if you want.
Yeah, let me see if he's doesn't show him as active, doesn't show him as offline either. So I'm sure he's still up.
That's okay. That's okay. I'll send it to him right now. So yeah, look, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. But we go a little bit way back, but what I want to do is I sort of had this idea more as a hobby and a pastime, simply to sort of spread the wisdom of what I've learned in the business world and all the people I've talked to and all the expert networks and all the stakeholders and the C levels from all sort of aspects of life, and just sort of be able to transfer this knowledge across to whoever watches it. So I'm doing a side gig with a channel basically. So I want to interview as many people as I can, and I thought, who is the most unconventional person I've met in the expert network world, and people I like the most. And ENC was one of those. So here I am. That kind of brought me to you. And I wore my Lucky Spain T-shirt. I got my Scarface poster. I'm good to go.
Perfect. You're all set.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, cool, man. Yeah, anything I can do to help.
I appreciate it. How you guys doing in the meantime? Good.
Yeah, staying busy. It's been good.
Good. Volume picked up.
What's that?
Has your volume picked up? Has volume work picked up?
Uh, I don't know if it's picked up or not, just as far as frequency, but it's gotten better in quality. We've gotten some pretty good logos. It's starting to get a little bit. I mean, we've been able to pivot away from being sort of that. I mean, anytime it's like startup 101, you kind of like you're just hungry. You got to get something on the board, and you got to get some sort of you got to make that register ring, even if it's not big ticket prices and it's not necessarily the clients you may want immediately, but it's starting to get to the point where we're now able to pivot to a little bit better, higher quality logos, quality people. Um, Interestingly, like some of the uh, initial clients have kind of turned out to be really good clients, and they've stayed with us, and they've been pretty more or less brand loyal. So it's been pretty good so far. And
Do you
we've got
wanna
a couple
take it
of
from the
yeah,
top, and maybe we can come back to it, but sort of explain. Sorry, my dog just jumped in the interim as well. Just sort of explain what you guys do. What
good.
is ENC? What's the expert network world like, and why you guys are important? Because I know, but the rest of the world doesn't.
Sure, man. So ENC, briefly put, is an expert network aggregator, a kind of a digital marketplace of these expert network services. So instead of being sort of that one, you go to one expert network and maybe you go to one more, and you kind of handle these relationships very separate of each other. And you know this, but a lot of people that may not deal with these types of things or this insights gathering work so much. It's sort of handling this multi-channel approach to handle one project, and it's unnecessarily it's become and it kind of is a little bit unnecessarily labor intensive, and so we've done at without having to add any sort of additional messy vendor relationship, without any overhead, and more or less most of the time without any increase in cost. basically give a platform that aggregates all this into, like I said, a digital marketplace where you can one place where you can just share everything you need and get what you need from multiple vendors all at once. Um, and for the and kind of to zoom back out, like you said, what is the expert network space? I mean, and maybe it's an overused term, but I like the term because I think it makes sense, and that's democratized, democratized, democrat,
Democratized.
demo,
Democrat. You know what?
democratized.
Let it
Getting,
go. It's fine.
getting a little late here. It's been a long day, so but yeah, it's kind of more open source knowledge and knowledge on demand. So what we've seen is you have everything from your more traditional clientele, like a consultant or a market research firm, where they require these kind of insights on a daily, sometimes hourly basis. Um, it's project dependent, of course. Sometimes you blend back over to the secondary side. This is obviously more of the primary side of research, but you're talking about getting that information from a relatively credible, if not an expert source, and having that all more or less open to anybody who really wants it. And depending on how fees work, it's out there if you want it. Um,
It's insane
so
because
I guess
you're
I guess
explaining
that's
it
kind of
really
the
well, and
long-winded
it took
way.
me like 2 years to be able to explain what it is I am doing when I first started in the expert network industry. There, I'm like, yeah, a little bit of
It's a little
brokerage, a little
weird.
bit of knowledge, a little bit of people, a little bit of LinkedIn, a little bit of this, a little bit of screening. It was very hard for me to explain.
Yeah, it's something that where if you don't work directly with it, you may not know it ever actually exists. And that's sort of something we see with more of your SMB, your small, medium businesses, some of the startup fields, like we've seen that where they may not even know this is an availability. Um, and it's like, oh, I can just, I don't know, pay a couple $100, couple $1,000 and get exactly what I need from a and basically have the fog of war evaporate in a matter of a couple of hours. Like, yeah, and that's what we do.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, look, the market as a market is a huge market, and people are not really familiar with it. I mean, you have hundreds of players now, right? So back when I started, there weren't hundreds of players, but now there are hundreds of players, as in expert network, small, big, medium, etc., etc. And it's a big piece of the pie, right? So it's like what, about a 2 billion valued market?
Something like that. I think it's even bigger than that now, but it's
Yeah, I'm out
it's
of
gone
date.
up.
I'm out of date. I'm out of date. I just wanted to ask because I know you guys, and as I said, I have a preference towards you guys personally. But are there any other aggregators out there? And if yes, what makes you
For
different
sure.
to them?
There's definitely aggregators out there. I think even the aggregator space of the expert network space is going to grow even more. It's becoming, especially like you mentioned, for those smaller and medium expert networks, it's tough to get in if you're an expert network. If
Yeah.
you're trying to do that, even if you've got a good database, a good social media network of people that LinkedIn or whatever it is, industry groups, it's still hard to get in because a lot of people they have those legacy relationships. It's hard to fight your kind of your fight for your space. So I think there's going to be more aggregators that step into the space. Right now, there's only really a true aggregators, maybe a couple right now. And I would say what makes ENC a lot more different is bar to entry and scalability. One of the things that I've seen repeatedly is the fact that it's so easy to just get your team onboarded and then grow from there. So as you're already growing and getting, whether it's more projects, if you're the expert network side, if you're a client, now you've got more requirements for these kind of insights. Being able to easily scale with one piece of technology is not something you really see anymore. CRMs, for example, they're really tough to scale with some of those,
Uh-huh.
um, especially because a lot of them are tiered in this price sensitive way where we're a little bit more flexible. Going back to some of the SMBs, your mid-sized consulting firms, you know, it's an easy way to bring in and simplify the process of trying to gather all of this information um, and be able to find the people that have it. It's a lot easier.
I
So
think you're
I
being
think that's sort of, I think that would say some of the,
no. Go ahead. Finish that sentence.
that just finishing the thought, I think that's what makes it a lot easier for, especially whether you're a business owner, a KM, knowledge management head, or whatever you are. It's a lot easier to just say, okay, we're just going to use this interface. It's kind of plug and play. There's no complications. If that makes sense.
I think you're being awfully modest. That's what I wanted to say. Because I mean, I've dabbled around with the other aggregators that are available, and to me, it seemed that your platform was way better and way more tech savvy and user friendly at the same time. In comparison to the rest, concurrently, your understanding of compliance was way superior to any competition you might currently have vis-a-vis and I'll say this because I'll say this because I dealt with a lot of strategy accounts and did a lot of government work, right? So and healthcare compliance was really important when it came to things like the Sunshine Act, the French equivalent, which I can't recall for the life of me, and anything that had to do with government employees. So very fragile points that you had a better understanding on how to tackle um in comparison to your competitors currently in the market. So I think that's very important. You also mentioned the CRMs, and the CRMs is a big pain point for expert networks, in my perspective at least, because as far as I understand, any small to medium expert network is basically getting the same CRM from the same one or two providers out there. So they're all customizing, yes, but they're all building it around the same framework of one or two providers, which is a great cash cow for those providers, but it's not really that great. I've used those CRMs because I've dabbled from big expert networks to smaller ones to, soloing it. You've seen it to everything. So I never wanted to use those CRMs because to me it was ridiculous paying the amount of money these providers wanted for a very basic CRM that did close to nothing, but a lot of small expert networks use it. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on all of these.
When it comes to picking a CRM, I mean, in my experience, only in a few industries are there industry specific CRMs. Only in a couple. Generally, like you said, you've got to pick from either a few big ones that you might be able to get, a cost affordable, or some have a free version, and those, of course, are extremely limited, and it makes a lot of tough to scale from that. Um, from my perspective, there's a couple that probably won't name them, but there's a couple that I think do a really good job of maintaining some flexibility and letting you be able to customize it to fit what we do, what's very specific in the expert network space, while still, obviously they're not going to go out on a limb and build something just for what is ultimately a fairly niche market compared to their other focused markets. What I think would be interesting is seeing somebody take that leap of faith, or perhaps somebody who's already in our space take that leap of faith and saying, whether you're an expert network, an aggregator, a survey provider, this is the CRM. This is the product that works best for you because maybe you've got the expertise. You know how we think. Maybe that's the next little niche to find in this broader market. But it's tough. And I'll use ENC as my example. When I came onto the team, we had an internal CRM that, quite frankly, was not a CRM. It was a database. That's all it was. And I can understand the argument that a CRM is a database, but it gets a lot more complicated than that. You're having dealt with different platforms, whether it's as big as Salesforce or as small as some very, very tiny agency software platforms.
But you want to be able to do stuff like book
It,
multiple calls with multiple calendar invites on the same guy, manually move them, change the
correct.
pricing for some, et cetera, et cetera. You got to be able to do all of those things in a proper CRM in the expert network industry.
Correct. And that's something that I think quite just hasn't quite come around yet. And I'm sure we will eventually, but right now, maybe we just we're a little too small right now. I'm sure some of the larger expert networks, the big players, they've likely gotten to the point where they've just built their own for themselves because that's what ultimately is going to work best. But some of us at the smaller or mid-size end, that's not something we don't have the dev teams to do that. So
Well, I'll tell you what, from my experience, I mean, I think my first expert network, and I don't know if I should name them or not, but I mean, my first expert network startup, right? Just signed big client, and they had just moved from their own in-house system to again their own in-house system. And as much as I would tend to mock that in-house system when I was there, so 2019, 2021, that era, as I moved into bigger expert networks, that CRM system, I miss it. I genuinely miss it. And I know they've evolved into new CRM systems, but for me, that one was the best one I've seen in the market.
yeah, I mean, the other thing that made us move to the CRM that we have is automation. Being able to just automate so many of these menial steps that may only take a 15, 20 minutes out of your day or even an hour out of your day, but that stacks up big when you're talking about weeks and you save some time. You get some of these things done. You can do it in a click or it's automatically uploaded. It's synced with your email and some of these things can just be automatically done. That was one of the key things I had to have when we started looking at CRM options way back in the beginning. So
I mean, your
yeah,
CRM was very intuitive, and you could interact directly with the client. You could do 1,000 things. I don't know if you've evolved it. I assume you guys have evolved it ever since I last used it.
for sure.
I'm assuming you're throwing some AI in there as well, if you want to talk about it.
We do. We have some plans. We have some projects. There's definitely things there. I mean, at this point, it's if you don't get on the LLM bandwagon might not be maybe a pejorative term, but if you're not getting on the LLM train, you've
There's
only
nothing
got you
for
may
you.
have already missed the train, but it has to happen.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Curious. What's your thoughts on what some big players did out there with surveys, libraries, database libraries, uh, that kind of thing. So you could just, instead of doing a traditional call with someone that has an expertise, just go to a database and look for a transcript of a past call and an analysis of it, and just take it and go with that flow. Do you think that's still valid? Is it a benefit? Is it worth it?
So on the survey side, for let me put it this way: the way I've seen it so far, by and large, is survey providers are generally working on their own. They won't do your traditional hour call. Usually, it's large numbers, anything from 20 to 120, 200,
Unnamed,
large
unvetted,
data sets.
potentially.
Uh, Potentially, but you're looking for that large body of knowledge. Sometimes that's more on the CX side of things. But then you have more of what we do, where it's the 15 to 1 hour calls, where it's a little bit more IDI, the in-depth interview. It's a little bit more time intensive. Um, I have not seen properly, I would say, those two worlds come together. Now, it's understandable because both of those are typically going to be different companies. If you're a CX company, you're probably not spending a lot of time on hour calls, maybe not. But generally, I would say you're spending your time analyzing larger sets of data and extrapolating things from that, summarizing things from that. What I think is going to happen, and I think is the next big curve, especially for us, some of the larger players, naturally, of course, if you look at the biggest one on the market, GLG, of course, naturally, they've got all bases covered. Now, if you can afford GLG, good for you. You've obviously done well as a business, but that's neither here nor there. I think for us that are more in the middle market that are fighting for each piece of the pie, it's going to be how it's integrate, how to get both sides of that, which is essentially two sides of primary research work, integrated into a platform that can have both, where you can have all of your CRM, all of your call management, all of your transcripts, recordings, all of that. You have your project management, but then you're also able to request, receive, analyze, uh, probably in a more visual or graphic way, look at all of your data. Being able to have both of those platforms, if that makes sense, I think that's going to be a big step. The problem is putting that all in one platform, that's a pretty tall order from the development side. I'm not a software developer, but I know that takes a lot of work to be able to essentially build two products in one. We have the ability to provide. Every now and then we do get a survey order that comes through, and we do deliver, but I think there's a better way to do it. And whether or not that's, the proverbial, is that juice worth a squeeze for us? It will happen, but it's not right now.
Well, I get what you're saying, and I mean, I'm looking at it again from my perspective, right? Big account, and the way I used to handle that, and that's just an initiative I took because it wasn't particularly keen on, well, upper management in these kind of companies and expert networks is particularly slow, especially the big ones. And there's a plethora of reasons why that I'd rather not get into. But the way I used to handle it is I used to talk with potentially any client that wanted it. And a lot of it was coming from countries like Italy, quite surprisingly. And they would tell me, listen, we want, blah, blah, blah. What's the cost for a call? 1,000, great. Can we break it down and do 20 minutes of a survey, 20 minutes of a call, and then 20 minutes of another survey or a follow-up survey or follow-up questions? And while there wasn't something specific in a contract form that would allow you to do this, I would that's how I would handle it, right? So I would do the survey, I would do the call, and I would do the survey, and then I would just put a pro rata charge to a total of, let's say, 1,000. And it seems like a quick win. I know that some players are doing it differently. I know some others are going for volume, unfiltered, unvetted, and that's not particularly something that a lot of the clients are keen on either, because a lot of them, yes, sure, they want 50, 100, 200, 1,000 surveys, but a lot of them want to know where you got those surveys from. So in their mind, it doesn't really make sense for them to pay $300 for a survey and for you to outsource it to some other expert network in India, for example, that's going to give you $50 per survey, and that survey is going to be questionable in terms of quality. So I don't think it's more of a platform issue. I hear what you're saying. I mean, you're looking at it from ENC's perspective. I'm looking at it from an expert network perspective. From my perspective, it would be not necessarily a platform issue because I can sort of bypass that step, but it would be more of a quality issue for me.
For the quality side of things, and taking the expert network perspective, you're right. Getting that quality. I mean, I don't know how many times I get either a industry, email or I see something about somebody speaking of some part of the issue of quality. Now, can we incorporate some sort of AI model that's built to help us verify or purify our data set to enhance that quality? I'm sure that'll come around. Maybe it's already around and I'm not aware of it, but that maybe that's a way we can incorporate something that can go through and verify all this, verify that person's credentials, whatever that is. But ultimately, I think at least for now, it's still a lot of manual work. It's still a little bit of a trick. Yeah, it's tough. It's
Okay.
quality is. I mean, you know this. How many conferences have you gone to? And there's at least one or two speakers that are bringing up the quality of these qualitative data.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to conferences and stuff like that, yeah. Again, different problem for me. From my perspective, it was a different problem because they would want big quality brand names, and those people would be very, very expensive. I think we had a similar case when we collaborated as well. They would want big brand names, and those big brand names would be expensive, and then those would fall outside their budget, so that would cause another issue altogether. So you can't really get the quality unless you pay for it. But then if you don't have the budget to pay for it, how are you expected to get the quality? Uh, I mean, from their perspective as a client, I can also understand it. But from, again, simply the expert network perspective, it makes no sense. And I have a crazy story about this. I was once working on a project. It was a proposal sent out, but we didn't know it was a proposal from again a big consultancy, and they wanted someone in the banking field, and we just kept on sending through lists and lists of network people that were CEOs, VPs, MDs, etc., etc. And it was back in the day where you could sign a consultancy just by impressing the partner or the MDP rather than going through their knowledge manager. Um, so we would kept on sending those lists and lists of people, and none of them impressed him. And he kept on pushing for more titles and more titles and more titles and better titles, until eventually we sent out some guy from JP Morgan who costed something like 15,000 euros per hour on a cold call, and we weren't even sure he was going to go through the terms of compliance. But we sent him out, and they loved that candidate and wanted to talk to him. So I mean, when you're dealing with clients that have budget, usually Middle Eastern or APAC clients, sure. If you're dealing with clients in EMEA, who are a little bit tighter on budget, it's pretty hard to safeguard quality if you're not really flexible with pricing. So I don't know how you feel about that. I'm just looking at it from an expert network perspective.
Yeah, we've seen that. I mean, just kind of being the platform, being the aggregator, we kind of see how both interact. And I've seen exactly what you're talking about, where sometimes pricing and demand don't exactly match up. And it's for us, it's tough to see because obviously, as you know, we lose out on that as well.
Yeah.
But and it's hard, it's not easy to negotiate that kind of relationship from any perspective, I suppose. But ultimately, I mean, if you need a certain type of data from a certain type of people, there is a floor to how low they go, and I've always said, and this goes for just about anything, a race to the bottom, and nobody wins that race. So um, you get what you pay for, and that goes for everything.
True. Mike, I have two questions for you, and I'm sort of sidetracking a little bit. The first one is, you mentioned clients in the beginning. You've signed some good logos and good names. I'm not sure if you can share any of those with us. Um, but can you share why they chose to go with ENC rather than another aggregator or an expert network altogether?
Sure. So probably can't really go into the exact names and logos, just at least not now. We kind of keep a lot of that. I mean, we don't even do group or collaborative, LinkedIn posts or anything. We just kind of keep a lot of this very quiet for right now. But I think a lot of in our conversations, what we found was kind of what we talked about in the beginning was what makes ENC stand out. Ease of use, being able to not have to, we don't have a contract. Naturally, we have a general terms of service, but so does every app you have on your phone, whether you know it or not. But there's not a contract. There's not some sort of sign-on requirement. We don't ask for $3, $5, $10,000 up front before you even know what you're going to get. And going back to the quality of the data, you don't even know the quality of the respondents that you're going to get, and you're 10,000 in the hole. That's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of, again, small and medium-sized consultancies. That's not easy. Maybe if you're a larger firm, you can swallow that, but we don't want to do that.
But
we do
losing
go
money
for
is never a pleasant thing, is it?
No, of course not. So we found that was a very lucrative option, that they were able to, there's not a lot of risk in saying, look, let's just get our project out there. Let's see the quality, the number, the frequency of these respondents. And then generally what we saw after that is, after a couple projects, it almost exploded, in the sense that we just started seeing them refer other users in their department. And then they said, well, if the energy team is doing this, well, then why isn't the TMT team doing this? Well, let's start getting them on this, because this is working for us. Then when you start going why we stand out just in the more broader picture, the aggregator model, rather than doing the more traditional engagement model, yeah, it just makes sense. You're able to upload everything into one easy to use dashboard that's very intuitive. People love that, especially what we're starting to see, and this isn't an ageism hit or anything, but some of your older generation consultants or your older generation researchers, maybe they're very comfortable with just sending out mass emails, putting everybody in a BCC block and sending it out. What we're seeing with, I think, this sort of either the gamification or the fact that we're more and more appified, if we want to call that everything. There's an app for everything now, so we feel like there should be a generally easy to use user interface that's friendly. That's we can click around, we can visually see how we are navigating the project. What's the first thing you do when you start a business? Probably one of the first things is make some sort of project management, task management software, right? That's probably one of the first things you do just to manage what you've got. And what's one of the most popular things when you see that is your boards where you've got all these to-do lists, you've got your priorities, you've got your schedule, and it's all in one little dashboard. What we've done is take that and do the exact same thing. So you can see all of your projects, you can see all of your calls, see all of your experts, navigate and talk with all of your expert networks, and it's all in a pretty easy to use interface. So that's what we've seen a lot of people gravitate to and find most helpful, I think. And then the very fact that, look, it's one thing to have a bunch of expert networks all in one place, but they've got to be competent, they've got to be responsive. And that was another growing pain that we had. There were some partners that just didn't work out. There were some that we still work with today, and I think we've kind of chiseled
There's
away
some
at
that
some
will
of the
come back
excess
in the
rock to
future.
create. Sure, they might. I mean, there are some that have a really good mind about them, and I think the circumstances were outside their control, and they'll. But anyways, the point I'm getting at is, I think it's absolutely something that we've started with a block of marble, and I think we finally chiseled it into something that looks like maybe not the Statue of David, but it looks pretty good so far.
It's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. We don't have a lot of time. I can see my timer here. It's 8 minutes. I'm running on the free Zoom thing. But I mean, on that point, that's all great said and done. But I just want to stress one more thing about you guys that makes you a little bit different in my eyes. You are far more approachable than potentially a lot of people in expert networks and a lot of people that are aggregators currently in the market. So if I send out the email I sent you about, hey man, you want to have a quick chat and discuss what you guys do, yada 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 yada, to 100 people, chances are, the response I will get will be from 2 or 3 or 4 people. And that's what I really like about you guys, is that I could approach you at any given point in time. No bullshit, excuse my French. No manipulation, no sort of secrecy, no preferential treatment, nothing. And I could just sit down and be like, hey, X, Y, and Z, how do you feel about it? And you'll tell me, yeah, but this, but that, or let's try this and that and that. And I think that kind of makes a way more transparent partnership than what most people see in the industry. And that's why I kind of feel why ENC is going to be a huge success. I mean, in my eyes, it already is, but you know, I feel like ENC is going to be a huge success simply because of the people that it has inside.
I appreciate that. Those are really kind words, and obviously I'm very biased, but I would agree with that. We take a lot of that, just fundamentals. I mean, it's sort of, I don't know, I'll use a militarism just because harken back to my old days, but there's a reason when you look at elite units and why they're good. Why they're good is not because they have special equipment or they have some advanced training. The people who are good at what they're good because they are masters of the basics. They are masters of their craft at a basic level. Mm-hmm. That is what genuinely separates, I think, companies that grow and scale, not necessarily at a rapid pace, but a steady upward pace, is because they are masters of their craft. They take the basics seriously. Basics like customer service. I mean, it seems silly to say because that's something you probably learned back when you were a cash register worker in your high school days. And you're right, it's not, and it's something a lot of people, let go to ground. Things like that. Things like, if I was my client, what would I want or expect? I would expect to be taken care of. Look, I don't need special treatment, but I'm just saying, hey, if we got a problem or if I got a question, what can we do to solve it? Okay, no problem. Here's what we can do. Here's the options. Let's move forward and execute. That's all.
Most don't do that. Most don't do that. Most don't do that. They'll have that air of arrogance of, I attended an Ivy League or I've been in a big consultancy, so I know better what I'm doing, which is not really true. So yeah, no, for me, that's your winning key point. It's that, no matter what happens, whether on the expert network side or the client side, Mike is reachable. I can talk to him, and he can work with me to solve it.
I try to do that every day. I know it's something, yeah, again, basics are what make people great. It's the extras that just sort of make you stand out a little bit from time to time. But again, I think those basics of just customer service, transparency, again, if it's something we can't do, then it's something we can't do. I'm not going to tell you that we can, or we can or cannot do something, or we can do something that we can't do. Sorry. So I think, yeah, customer service, master the basics, transparency, and personability. There again, you said, I won't hit on the MBA. I very much like to get mine soon, but
Same.
there is a culture of. I've seen this working with some others. There is a culture of maybe. I think of the easy way to say it is I think of a lot of the old world sales fundamentals have kind of died off,
Mm-hmm.
and there's kind of been this shift to, I don't know, maybe some new model. But I don't know, maybe I just gravitate to those fundamentals a little bit more, maybe. I don't know. So
That's a
it seems
huge.
to be working. So,
It's a huge discussion. I'm running out of time. I hear what you're saying. I would call it more as a lack of leadership in decision making. Um, so and senseless delegation potentially, but I mean, I don't know. I was a very decentralized leader when I had my units and my teams. Not a lot of people are. Some people try to be and they don't do it successfully. I mean, again, a whole leadership discussion is a whole different thing. And I don't want to take any more of your time. Again, I'm running out of time. So I think I'll call this right now. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
absolutely, man. It's a pleasure and an honor to get to talk again. Always good to get back together.
Awesome. Awesome.